Welcome back, College Baseball Central fans. It's our favorite time of the year here where we're doing ready and getting all the preseason shows out. ACC show, we're here for you. Can't wait to do this. As if you guys have not watched one of our preview shows in the past, we go reverse order where we ranked all these ACC teams. If you are worried about your team being ranked low here, do not worry. There are so many good teams in the ACC this year, and any of these teams could honestly make the tournament. But we broke them down and we did a lot of research into these, and we're going to give you some names. We're going to give you some players. We're going to talk about the coaches. We're just going to get all into it. And I got two guys here with me today. I'm really excited to have them on the program. Monty Taylor, welcome in.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, talk some ACC ball. I've been talking to a lot of coaches, going to fall ball, so I'm just it's killing me. There's still 2 months left.
I know we're 70 days out. We're at the 70-day mark. We're right there. We're getting close.
I'm
And
I need my ACC ball, man.
and Jake McKeever.
Me and Monty are back reunited talking ACC again. It feels like old times, as in a month ago.
I was gonna say, I was like, you helped me with the fall ball coverage, so
Some of us have been doing fall ball coverage the whole time, Jake, with the ACC. But hey, you jump into your Southern Fried Baseball, you can dip your toe back in the ACC waters when it's good for you. Listen, we're
great
really
name, by the
excited about
way.
this. Yeah, I mean it's time. It's time here. Let's jump right into it. Number 16, Notre Dame. Now, on a normal season in another conference, maybe this team's a lot higher. They do have a lot of talent. They do have a lot of question marks, though. Monty, I'm gonna let you start with this Notre Dame team here at 16.
We've ranked them 16. I think that could end up coming back to bite us. If you remember last year, they didn't have the best season last year, but they weren't far out from an NCAA tournament bid based on their RPI. I think their pitching is going to be a lot better. They're bringing back two of their three weekend arms, and Jack Radell comes back. He's a rising sophomore. Rory Fox, he's a big arm, and then you got a lot of guys that can make some jumps here. DJ Hellwig is a guy. I think he was my Notre Dame pitcher of the summer. I think their pitching is going to be much improved from last season. I think that's going to make a difference. On the offensive side, obviously you've got Estevan Moreno, who is an absolute stud. Hit a lot of home runs last season. But you also have Connor Hinks back, another graduate transfer from last season. That's huge. And then I really, really like Carson Tinney, their sophomore catcher. I think he's going to have a breakout year. He was actually doing really well. He had 7 extra base hits in his freshman year before he tore his ACL, but it'll be good for him to be back. And I think he's going to have a breakout season for the Irish.
Yeah, another guy I want to throw out there, Brady Gumpf, one of those local kids who's been there for a while, been in the program. I think he's going to get an opportunity to play and do some offensive things also. This team could be a lot better than 16, but with all the question marks and the struggles in the pitching side last year, Monty, it makes sense that we have to have them there here to start. But again, any of these teams in the ACC could make the tournament because it's so deep and so loaded this year. Let's go to number 15, Jake, Virginia Tech. They've been high on our list in years past. They've been low on our list. This is one of those years where we really don't know enough about this squad, and they have a lot of holes to fill.
Yeah, I mean, it really has been just a roller coaster ride if you're going to be a Virginia Tech fan the last 3 years, missing the tournament, then hosting a regional, then missing the tournament the last 2 years. I think that, they addressed a lot of their issues that they had in the pitching side. I know that really has been their Achilles heel the last 3 years. They got a ton of depth in there. I mean, they returned Brett Renfro, Griffin
Yeah.
Steve. I think he is expected to miss all of 2025, but he's another guy that you can maybe kind of see at the end if they're pushing for tournament time. And then this team just flat out rakes. I mean, they get Garrett Michelle back. They get Clay Grady back. There's a few underrated guys that are going to be stepping into new roles, as well as, Henry Cook behind the plate. There really is a lot to like about this Virginia Tech team going forward. And I know that last year we mentioned with Pitt that they were a consensus team that we're going to have down near the bottom of the ACC. But it wouldn't surprise me if teams finish below this Virginia Tech team. They really can hit. They seem like they can just kind of wreck somebody's pitching staff with how much they hit. It's just a really kind of weird team to gauge because it feels like this is the first year where they truly have the pitching to compete in the ACC.
And they might have the pitching. They might have the pitching to be able to compete this year in the ACC. One guy that I wanted to mention also, first baseman Anderson French, big kid coming in as a freshman. He might get an opportunity right away to take off for this Virginia Tech team. It's going to have to come down to, can they hit in this conference? I mean, they haven't done what, Monty? Monty, you give me the head tilt on Anderson French.
I think they're taking their time with him a
Yeah.
little bit more, but they've got so much depth. The guy I thought you were going to mention,
too.
the guy I thought you were going to mention was Madden Clement, the sophomore pitcher who I had an outstanding fall. I think is going to move into their Saturday role.
Yeah, Clement's another guy that, I mean, they have guys that could step up, and this could be a really good Virginia Tech team. I know that they're taking their time on French, but I have this feeling that if he gets opportunities, he's going to make the most of it. He's a big kid, strong kid, little raw.
If he DHs, where's David McCann going to play?
Yeah, I mean,
you've only got you can only play so many catchers, Mark.
Is Clement the one whose dad is son of
Mac? Yeah, Matt Clement's son. Yep.
Because I always get him confused with Clemente down in Florida. One of them's dad played in the majors, and
it's Matt Clement. Yeah,
and it is pronounced a completely different way versus the guy down in Florida.
Yeah. I really like the Tech. I mean, Ben Watson coming back is huge. I can't believe somebody didn't draft him after a 419 average. I mean, I had this Tech team ranked much higher than 15th. I have them, borderline, tournament team. So. There's some discrepancies.
In our aggregate, they were a lot closer to 14 than Notre Dame. They weren't a consensus 15, I should say.
Yeah.
So
they're going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like I mentioned at the start of the show, any of these 16 teams could honestly make the tournament. It wouldn't surprise any of us here.
I hate ranking these teams. They're all my children.
We love them all. We had to put out rankings because that's what we do in the preview shows. Now a team that we're new team to the conference, number 14, California. Monty, I know that we have them here at 14. They could be much higher than this. I think that the pitching is the question mark, but I'm going to let you go into this a little bit more with this number 14 Cal Bears.
Yeah, they lost a ton of talented pitching. And so the question is, are they going to have enough firepower to compete in the ACC? I think their offense definitely does. You've got quite potentially the best middle infield in the country with Jaron Avincula. And can you say his name for me?
PJ Mutharidis.
Thank you very much. The shortstop. They're very, very good. I think Dominique Smaldino is very, very good. He's going to have a breakout year. And then, of course, you've got a number of guys who can do stuff that have transferred in there and returning. But the pitching is the question. They're going to be relying on Austin Turkington. He was a guy who got some starting experience. He got some closing experience. He's probably your Friday guy, and hopefully he can make that adjustment. But then after that, there's a lot of question marks, and it's very possible that these guys all come in and are fantastic.
Yeah.
But we're not necessarily seeing that. I mean, some guys that are going to compete. You have David Shaw from Texas is a guy that they might look at to start. Gavin Eddy, Oliver De La Torre, and Spencer Desart. Those guys are all going to be competing for spots. It's just, can they get guys to compete in the ACC? And especially with that travel schedule, they've got to come in ready to roll.
Yeah, another pitcher I want to throw out there too, Quinn Larson. He might have the opportunity to get in there and get some innings, and I don't know if he's going to break into that weekend rotation, but if he can be a solid bullpen arm for them and get them maybe in some of those stretches where those starters don't go long enough, that would be huge for them. Max Hendren also coming out there and getting some hits and getting this team going with Avincula and Mutharidis. Yeah, Jake, what do you got to add here?
I was just saying, do you think it's a little bit worrisome that the first time that they're ever leaving the state of California is to go to North Carolina, that all of their early season games are around their hometown, all their midweeks are in California?
No, it's pretty standard for warm weather places, right? Because, why would
you? But we always talk about that with Florida and Miami. That it seems like the first time that they ever leave Florida, they really kind of struggle to get their footing. Do you think?
But do you want, with all the travel they're already doing, would you want them to have scheduled?
I would stay home. Yeah, I'm with Monty. I'd stay home as much as possible.
I'd do a little cheap one, go down and play in Phoenix or something like that. I
think, like last year when they did Vegas.
Yeah.
They're coming out. Their first game is in North Carolina against Duke, right? So I mean, it's not going to be easy in any of these road series in the ACC. I'd stay home, get healthy, make sure you're ready to go for the ACC season. But to each their own.
And then, what do you think the drop off between the Pac-12 and the ACC? How big of a step up in competition is it? Because I know the bottom of that Pac-12 is really kind of that's where the depth is in the ACC. Do you think there's going to be any drop off from them kind of playing lower tier Pac-12 teams that are now replaced by teams that can go in and win regionals.
People keep saying they're the lower end Pac-12 teams. Yeah, it's lower than what the ACC is. They're going into a very, very difficult
You've just
conference.
caused Mark to have to defend his Pac-12. Why are you talking bad about the dead, Jake?
Yeah, kicking a dead horse here. Thanks, man. But I think that the difference is that there's no weekends you go into and go, we're going to take 2 out of 3. It's going to be like, oh, we got to battle every single weekend here, and there's no easy weekends. There's no weekends off. The Pac-12 got maligned the last couple of years, but they before that was the premier conference in college baseball. So I will say I think Cal moving to ACC this year is going to be a tough thing for them. And it's going to be down to pitching, like Monty said. And I really think that those guys, Gavinetti, De La Torre, and Larson, are going to have to step up and be much better in addition with those other guys.
Mark, does it make you feel bad that I feel like they're a good fit in the ACC with all the academic standards, their standards on transfers, that they feel like an ACC school?
No, it doesn't make me bad. I'm glad Cal found a home. I'm glad Stanford's there as well with them. I mean, I think that they fit well into the ACC. I think that they bring more life to the ACC. I think it's great for ACC, and I think it's great for those two schools. So I know Monty found a new home. 13, you guys are wearing Pitt gear. Let's get into it. The Pitt Panthers are, they keep battling. They just haven't made that breakthrough season yet to get into the top half of this ACC. They have the talent this year. They have the guys. They have enough breakout candidates. Let's talk about them here. I'll let you go first, Jake, since you are decked out in Pitt gear today.
Yeah. Monty's going to be a little bit mad because Monty they rolled out the red carpet for him.
I thought he was going to wear one of his new jerseys. I thought he was going to wear one of those, but no. He did this on purpose, knowing what I was going to do.
I know.
I thought you were going to go North Carolina or Florida State or something, but
I'm going to start muting him. Why does he get to talk about him? Go ahead, Jake. Whatever.
I think it's the most difficult job in the entire country. Pitt doesn't have the facilities of some of these ACC teams. They don't have the luxury of, having the warm weather where they can practice outside most of the time. It's not a recruiting hotbed in Western PA. And yet we always seem to kind of find ourselves talking about how good this team is. They bring back a ton of guys in Jaden Melendez and Luke Cantwell. The pitching, I think, is going to be another aspect where they really kind of lean on them, as that's when they've kind of gone up and beat these upper echelon of ACC teams is through their really great staff. Ryan Reed's another guy that I think you kind of have to watch out for, as well as Aiden Coleman. And then the depth outside of it, I know when Monty and I did our preview on the Pitt show, there was a ton of guys that we thought could kind of get in there, specifically in right center or right, left in the outfield. But there's just a lot to like about this Pitt team, and I think that this Pitt team's going to hit a lot better than they did last year.
Monty, I'm gonna let you add on to this because I know that you got to go do a visit with this team, and it's just fantastic when we get to go all over the country and visit some of these teams. So let's break it down.
I love this Pitt team. What they've developed there. These are a lot of these kids are Pitt kids, like Pittsburgh, Western Pennsylvania kids. I love that. The culture is unique. There's a lot of gritty teams out there, but the fact that they embrace this culture and the Gritsburg mentality, that's just part of the city's culture. It's so much fun. And Luke Cantwell and Jaden Melendez, those are going to be your big boppers, with Ryan Zuckerman, who I saw hitting the 2-hole, and I'm kind of loving where they have him. Sebastian Pisacreta is going to have a breakout season. They're going to use him a lot to give Jaden Melendez rest. And then the big bat that I'm really excited about, Lorenzo Carrier, is finally going to break out this year. He struggled for a couple of years at Miami. He showed us glimpses. He's in a new program. They believe in him. He had a monster fall, hitting bombs. I'm super excited for him. But on the pitching side, that's where they've got to find some replacements. Phil Fox got drafted. That's a big loss. So they have to find that bullpen bulldog, because Phil Fox was basically unhittable last year.
Yeah, and ate up innings.
Yeah. Aiden Coleman is he's not going to be your bullpen bulldog. He's going to be in the weekend rotation. I am a big fan of his. He had a monster summer up in the Cape. He did throw a lot of not in the Cape, excuse me, in Martha's Vineyard, so close to the Cape, but different league. And then they brought in a ton of transfer arms that have some potential. Drew Lafferty out of Kentucky. Patrick Gardner out of Fairleigh Dickinson, just like Luke Cantwell was out of Fairleigh Dickinson before. Noah Sychowski, I saw him pitch. He looked pretty good. I was really impressed with the pitching. I think they racked up 21 strikeouts or something against Mercyhurst in their scrimmage. They didn't get much done offensively, which is what we say their strength is. I was really, really impressed with their pitching staff. And one guy I really liked was Andrew Gaines, their closer, who could be their closer. He's kind of a psycho in a good way. You know how those emotional pitchers that you like to see at the end of games. But like he would, after every out, he would turn and stare out to the outfield for a good 5 seconds, and then turn around and take the mound again. And I love the personality there.
You love those guys with a little bit of edge, especially this Gritzberg team. There's a reason why we call them that, and it just comes out. And it comes from the coaching staff, right? Like these guys build this into these guys, and these guys grow up in Western Pennsylvania. One guy I'm excited to see back with the program, AJ Nessler. He went down to UCF for a year, and he decided, I miss these guys. I miss what this coaching staff does. I miss these guys. I want to be back with my teammates. He comes back. He might be an outfield candidate there this year. I really like that this team is kind of built around toughness and pitching and defense and trying to go get those hits. Like we said, they might be a big offensive team here in the ACC. Number 12, Boston College. Monty, take us through this Boston College team. They have had great seasons. They've had great players. And this year, it kind of feels like a question mark for me in big general.
Right, and there's not, and as you try to do your research, you couldn't find out too much information on them. Luckily for you, I've been following everything. I've talked, if you guys had a chance, my interview with Patrick Roche was fantastic. He's back. Yeah. They had a lot of injuries last year, not major injuries, but little injuries that caused some problems. Obviously, talk about Patrick Roche, he missed time, but they still have a ton of guys from that regional team 2 years ago. Nick Wang, Sam McNulty, Vince Cimini, Kyle Wolf, Patrick Roche, all five of those guys are still at Boston College. They're still going to be in the starting lineup. They returned Beck Milner at catcher. They return Adam Magpok. But then they bring in two really good transfer outfielders I'm really excited about. Josiah Ragsdale, he was my BC player of the summer. I think he's going to have a monster year. And then Jack Toomey from Holy Cross. I mean, this lineup, there's a lot to love about it, right? The question is, again, with a lot of these teams towards the bottom, the question is pitching, right? AJ Colarusso is the only guy from last year's rotation returning. Big John West, he has moved on to the Arizona Diamondbacks. So now you've got to find some guys to step up. The good news, Tyler Mudd, who was such a monster at the beginning of last season out of the bullpen, he got hurt. He is back fully healthy. He did come back towards the end of the season to try and get Boston College into the ACC tournament, but unfortunately, they were not able to do that. But he's back and healthy. He might be a rotation guy this time around. If not, he's going to be your bullpen ace. Sophomore Kyle Kipp, he was my pitcher of the summer for BC. He's a rising sophomore. You can see a lot of guys, especially pitchers, taking that freshman to sophomore year bump. He's one of the guys I'm circling.
It came down to pitching for me, wondering if this BC team can compete with the pitching. And they have a lot of guys that have an opportunity, right? And like you said, that freshman to sophomore seasons, they're going to have to step up and be really, really good. Jake, did you have anything you want to add in on the Boston College? I know you're a self-proclaimed Boston College fan.
Yes, I do like Boston College. I like some of the just Boston transfers that they took in. You already mentioned one of the fielders. Alex Bryan's another one coming over from Holy Cross too as well. Carl Meyer from MIT. Coming in as a graduate. I'm not sure how much he'll pitch, and it'll be kind of more in, a back end role. But I think the one guy that you really kind of have to watch out for is Joey Ryan. He's another guy that kind of got bit by the injury bug. What his role is going to be? Can he kind of return to form? Because there were times in, his sophomore season where he really did kind of show out. You felt like he was going to take those next step forward. Again, this feels like it's the last year of the Gambino kind of team, and we'll start to see more of the Todd and Hernando coming through. I think that this is a pivotal year for BC, as it really kind of does feel like it's the last dance for a lot of these guys.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jake, because the other big thing is it's Todd Interdonato's second year, and these guys have now gotten a full year under his system.
Expectations
and I think one of the problems they had last year was an identity problem with what kind of style of baseball they were going to be, what style of team. They should be more in sync this year, and you saw – This is an extreme comparison, but Florida State, Link Jarrett's first year to Link Jarrett's second year. I mean, big things can happen in a coach's second year. So it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, you get two. Now you've had 2 off seasons with them, right? And you're getting to understand what these guys want. They're all coming back. They have a lot of returning starters. I think that BC could be better than 12 here, but that's where we got them because of the question marks on the pitching side. And that's like you said, a lot of these guys from the bottom half of this league is because of the pitching question marks versus what they're actually going to be able to produce.
Right, but if
Well,
those
will
pitching
likely get you into a regional, I should say too, as well. I think this
Pitching-
is kind of where the cut line is.
and pitching question marks can be answered, right?
Yeah,
We're just
100%.
questioning those can be answered. These teams. I mean, I had an interview with James Ramsey the other day when he was talking about Drew Burris and some of the questions about him. Drew was going to have the last say. These teams will have the last say. Nothing we say really matters. We're just kind of previewing, but these teams will have an opportunity to answer these questions with emphasis.
100%. And another one of those teams that can jump right out there at you. Number 11, Louisville. Jake, this Louisville ball club has had, they're a storied program. They've been to the College World Series. They've had all these opportunities. They've been there. They haven't won that title there, and they feel like a team that could be at the top of the game always. And then the last couple of years, it just hasn't worked out for them.
Yeah, there kind of has been almost this big cloud hanging over this program that Dan McDonald's going to leave and go somewhere south. I don't think that that's the case anymore, just to some of the openings that have come up and he hasn't left for. Then again, Mike Bianco's still at Ole Miss, and that was always where he was kind of linked to. So, but Monty kind of mentioned it with another team earlier about trying to predict the lineup. I think this Louisville one is almost impossible to predict.
Well, especially with the way Mike McDonald likes to like. We remember last year when we were doing the shows, they were like for the first 18 games, there was nowhere near a consistent lineup except for Gavin Keelan at short.
There would be just like hockey line changes too, where like all 9 people would play on Saturday, and then none of them would play the next day. I think the one guarantee that you can have is that Zion Rose isn't going to be a catcher this year. They're moving him into the
outfielder. Yeah, he's going to be outfielder.
Yeah, he's going to be a guy. I don't know if you can consider him a breakout star because he hit 380 as a freshman, was a freshman All-American. But
yeah,
I think he's going to take it on. In more of like a national sense. Like I think he's going to be a guy nationally that we start to talk about.
He was a Team USA guy. Like
yeah. Eddie King Jr. I think is another guy that you can kind of almost pencil in. But even then, they did weird stuff with him last year where he didn't play every single game. He only played 49 games for him, and he was one of their most experienced players. I think Taggart Tyson's another guy that you can kind of have to watch the battle between him and Matt Klein behind the plate. I think that's going to be the one that you really kind of have to watch out for. But I mean, there's like 10, 15, 16 guys you can talk about that are probably going to start 30 games for him.
I mean, they love to rotate guys in, right? They play a lot of guys. I think Matt Klein will win that catching job, and I really think that he steps up and be the leader for them this year.
I don't think it's a competition. I think he's got the job.
I agree. I think it's Matt Klein's job.
But he's not going to start every game. Taggart Tyson.
He might DH some games or sit out. I mean, you're never going to start 60 games as a catcher.
Yeah, what's interesting is Taggart Tyson was in the transfer portal and opted to come back to Louisville. So I think that's
what makes me think that it's a competition. Yeah. Is that there's probably a reason that he came back, and if it was
he might DH and maybe even go play some first. They might move him around and try to figure out a spot for him just because.
I know they used Zion Rose a ton as a DH last year too. So,
but he's going to be outfield.
Kind of interesting to see how they use him because he's not that athletic. Like he is kind of going to be a little bit of a liability out there in the outfield.
If you look at outfielders for Louisville, and not just the starting 3. But if you look at the 6 guys they got who could play the outfield, they might have the best outfield 1 through 6 in the ACC. The only problem is you can only play 4 of them at one time if you're including the DH.
You DH one, yeah, absolutely.
And maybe first, but
yeah, I still think it's Rose and Eddie King Jr. are going to be out there almost every single game for them.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Rose, Moore, and King Jr. with all that speed. I mean, Lucas Moore stole something like I think he stole over 60 bases in the Northwoods League over the summer, like something insane like that. Yeah,
he was 17 to 21 last year too as well. And again, we're not even talking about somebody like Garrett Pike who has the talent to be in the mix and start in the ACC.
100% he does. It just I think that
they're just so deep and so there's such a weird team to kind of predict.
Yeah, I'm so excited. One of the guys I wanted to talk about, Tage Davis. Have you guys been seeing some of the stuff he did during the fall? I mean, he was hitting bombs. I think he's going to get the first base job, although at the same time, Nate Early's going to be in that discussion as well, who looked really good on the Cape. Not many JUCO guys get an opportunity to go play in the Cape like he did, so that's pretty cool. Really exciting team, I think. And I think I'm going to say it right here. They're going back to the NCAA tournament. They're breaking the drought, 2-year drought this year. Once they figure out what they're doing with their lineup. And you know why? Patrick Forbes. Patrick Forbes. Yes. Patrick Forbes is going to have a big year. I know this was Jake's. I just took over Jake's segment with Louisville here and just started going.
You're fun. I love the collaboration.
I'm a big fan of the pitching staff. I think they're going to have a much better pitching staff than last year, especially because if you guys remember that, I think they had the worst ERA in the conference last year. Tucker Biven was really the only guy they could really rely on. I mean, they got Evan Webster did pretty well, but he's gone. But Patrick Forbes is going to have a big year. And he had a big summer, looked fantastic, looked even better this fall. Brennan Cutts from Indiana State's probably going to be your Saturday guy. And then I expect big years from Colton Hartman and Parker Detmers. Those two guys are competing for that Sunday role. And I think the bullpen is going to be much improved.
I think that this team is going to beat the strike zone more up. I think that they get beat last year with walks and then double, and then all of a sudden you're down. And I think that they just really struggle. That Miami series last year was kind of that turning point for this team where they went the wrong direction for the remainder of the season. They just found out that they couldn't.
Well, they started slow, remember, too. I think they were the only ACC team that lost on opening weekend.
But they were battling back in ACC play, and then that Miami series really turned it.
Yeah, I think they need to get off to a fast start. They need to get some confidence early. Because I think that's going to be a big thing here. It seemed like it was like same old Louisville last year.
They will have that opportunity in Texas.
Yep,
that is
get
true.
started early.
And they'll have the Jake Good Luck charm.
Yeah, I said you'll be there. Tyler Jennings will also be there, my buddy.
That was still, I think, the best team I've ever seen in like a weekend was when
you came back in your praise. I'm like, you must have seen something different live. I mean, like they look good, but they didn't look like they're the number one team in the country.
I don't think they struck out like over. I think they only struck out like one game. Like they were just peppering the ball all over the yard, and then that was they went downhill after that.
Number 10, like I was mentioning there, that they had that series against Louisville last year. Number 10, Miami. I know that they've got some pieces. Monty, I'm going to let you start with this team, but I really think that Miami could be one of those candidates that can work their way back up to the top half of this conference pretty easily this year.
Miami has I'm not exaggerating when I say this, a completely new team.
Yep.
They have only a total of 5 position players back, and that may actually be less. I don't know. I haven't looked at the transfer portal lately to see if anyone else has left. Edgardo Villegas has left. They've had to make cuts because they did have, I mean, the whole roster was huge. So they had to have made some cuts. And it may have included some guys that we have as returners. The one thing we do know, Dorian Gonzalez Jr., Daniel Cuvée, they're back.
Yep.
They're in the lineup. Other than that, we can only guess. Tanner Smith is likely your catcher, the Oregon State transfer who Mark has to love, right? Todd Hudson, Liberty transfer. He'll probably be at first base.
6'6", Monty, and left-handed. The dude can rake.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised his numbers were as low last year. I mean, he had a good season at Liberty, but like I would have expected more extra base hits. I think those numbers will jump. Yeah. Jake Ogden, I think, is going to be the shortstop. He's not a natural shortstop, but he's been working there all fall. His bat is going to be in the lineup, and that's probably the best place to put him. But hopefully that doesn't cost him defensively. I know they've had some defensive issues at that position all of last year, but they've got some talented freshmen in case that doesn't work out for Jake Ogden. But the outfield's going to be really exciting. You got some good freshmen, but you've got Max Galvin, who's the MVP of the Northwoods League, had a monster year. I know Canes Cats Heat must be going off in the lineup. But this is exciting stuff. But yeah, they got Derek Williams from Wichita State, Bobby Marsh from Penn State. It's going to be a lot of fun.
They have
I think that Bobby Marsh goes in and plays, if I'm being honest with you. But again, like Monty said, it's so impossible to kind of predict with this. I think he owns like a few records at Penn State too as well. I mean,
Cuvée and Gonzalez Jr. guarantees, right? Second base and third base. Those guys are in there. Tagati, Ogden. I think Ogden can play first too. Yeah, I just think that Todd Hudson's going to get that opportunity from Liberty, that Liberty transfer. I think they're going to give him.
Oh yeah, Todd Hudson and Ogden will be in the lineup. It's just where.
Yeah, and there's going to be lots of different options for them. Hudson again can move around, play a little bit of outfield as well. So I think that's this team.
I think the plan is Ogden will probably lead off, Dorian Gonzalez in the 2. I would imagine, for Miami.
Absolutely. And with a guy like Tanner Smith, who's really good defensively and coming in catcher, tons of starts at Oregon State. I think he had 95 starts in his career so far at Oregon State. And you're putting him behind the dish to help out this pitching staff, right? Because this pitching staff, it's got a lot of guys in it and a lot of guys with not much starting experience. Jake, I know you were starting to talk about this, but, Brian Walters, Nick Robert, I mean, those guys are going to have to step up this year, right?
And correct me if I'm wrong, but when I was doing research on it, I believe they had the largest freshman class of any Power 5 program.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if they kept everybody, but they had the largest one coming in.
Yeah, largest. Yeah, of the 2024 classes that they got to campus, they had the most signees. It's a completely new team, like in every sense of the word. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they switched to like black and gold like uniforms and become like the Evo Shield Canes. Like it's just an impossible thing to predict with them. In a perfect world, they have a Florida State season like they had last year, and then in a nightmare scenario, people like Kane's Cat are calling for a take its head again. That was coming out all of last year with them.
LSU had a bigger class. They didn't get everybody to campus.
I think LSU had the higher rated class, but Miami had more signees.
Yeah, because LSU didn't get everybody to campus, I think was the difference there.
You mentioned Nick Robert and Brian Walters. Those guys need to step up for sure. I anticipate them doing so. Nick Robert was really one of the only few bullpen guys that you could really depend on, but now he's going to get a chance to starting rotation. But I really love Griffin Hugas. I did an interview with him in the fall, so if you haven't seen that, go check it out.
He's
Griffin's great.
Right?
Yep, transfer from Cincinnati, had a monster summer again in the Cape Cod League. I mean, what he did in the postseason, especially for the Bourne Braves, was really, really impressive. I loved what I saw from him. But yeah, Nick Roberts probably going to be the Friday night guy, as Kane's Cats Heat's telling us. But yeah, Griffin Hugas is kind of my X factor, but they've got a number of guys who should be able to step up.
I'm excited for this Miami team. I think that, again, everybody knows my love for Tanner Smith, but getting there and helping out these pitching staff, I think that makes a huge difference too when you trust your catcher. Griffin's a kid dad as well.
Griffin's dad is great, and one of the things we would love is Griffin's brother is a player at, I believe, I want to say Presbyterian. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but it would be great if we got a regional, a Hugas Brothers regional would be pretty great.
I love it.
The Hugas Bowl.
The hugest bowl. So brought to you again, guys. Chinook seeds. They're the best seeds ever. I know that all of us love their seeds. We ate so many of them in Omaha and all over the country this year. I know that they've sent out, I have cases in my house because they're so good. I love Chinook seeds. If you use our code CBC, you get 10% off your entire first order. Go out there, try all the flavors. I think there's 8 flavors now. Cinnamon Toast Crunch, guys. If you guys haven't had it, it's great. Cinnamon Toast, go get it. The seeds are the best seeds on the planet. I'm so happy to be working as a partner with those guys. We're so happy to be working with them, and we can't wait to see them again in Omaha, and hopefully we see them a few more times than that. Let's get on to number.
I like the Hatch. The Hatch was my favorite.
I'm a jalapeno ranch guy. I'm a jalapeno ranch guy, but the Smokehouse Barbecue is also one of those flavors that is nails. So
the Hatch for me.
I know you and Alex both love the Hatch chili. You guys are weird. Number 9, Georgia Tech.
Number 9.
Yeah, I thought they were. I thought they were higher.
That's not the list you gave me.
Oh, Jake messed up the list.
Oh, Micah messed it up.
That's where they landed in our rankings because of Micah. I'm telling you, like his ranks. He's not even here to defend himself today, but he caused this. I have number 9, Georgia Tech.
You hear that? Micah's the reason Georgia Tech is so low, which means he ranked them low.
He ranked them lower than all 3 of us.
Oh,
so that is the thing.
Georgia Tech super fan Micah.
He's actually in Atlanta right now too. So,
Jake, why don't you start with this team? I know I'll let you go first because I have some pieces that I'm really excited for. This young freshman pitching staff is going to be something else for them.
Yeah, I thought you were going to let Monty go first here, just because he seems to have this love affair.
No, he gets Wake.
Yeah, I'll save Drew Burris for you, Monty. But I think that there's a lot to really like on this team going forward. It seems like they're kind of right on the fringe of breaking through and making it to Omaha. They really did have the talent. They just got kind of put in a really, really tough regional with Georgia down there at their home ballpark, and it was just a hornet's nest for them. But good news is they get a lot of experience off of that team. They get a lot of guys back. We get another year to watch probably the best freshman in college baseball, Drew Burress. He hit 381 for Georgia Tech. We really did run out of superlatives really early with him last year. Vaughn Lackey's another guy that you can really kind of see is taking one of those big steps forward. The average was at 214 for him, but obviously I think it was a little bit better than he kind of let on. He had a lot of really, really competitive at-bats when you would watch them in person. Carson Kearse at second base, I think, is another one that you can kind of see. Him and Alex Lodies up the middle, I think, are going to be one of the better duos in
Kyle Lodies.
Kyle
Lodies. I get him. I just get so excited talking about the Lodies, man. And then from there, there's a few guys that you can kind of see working their way in. Brett Denby's one that you could kind of see in the mix, maybe in that third base role. Tyler Nesis, I believe is how you pronounce it. He's somebody. And then obviously freshman Drew Rogers. What's the plan with him? He's their highest recruit in, I think, 4 or 5 years. He's a catcher. He's an infielder. I think that they'll kind of use him more as a DH, maybe a first or third base at a corner spot. The kid just absolutely mashes. I mean, when you watch his perfect game tape, he looks like one of the best players in the country. You could see him almost having a Drew Burress type year. And I think the Burress-Rogers duo is going to really create havoc for these ACC pitchers for the next 2 years. I'm really
He's 6'1", 220 pounds as a freshman, guys. He does not look like a freshman. He is built and he is ready to go. Go ahead.
He's got a really mature approach too. When you read some of the scouting stuff off of the perfect game, which, everybody says, really athletic build, but he has a mature approach at the plate. Like when you watch him, he has a good feel for everything, which obviously, it's a big jump from showcases up to ACC play. It's not going to translate, but the strength, I think, is just off the charts for him.
Yeah, he's got power. Monty,
am I good to go now?
Yeah, you're good now. Now Jake's done.
Am I okay to go now, Jake? No.
Yeah.
I think this Georgia Tech team is Omaha bound in the next 2 years, either this year or next year. Before Drew Burress leaves, I think Georgia Tech makes it to Omaha. I love this team. They got a lot of big guys. John Giesler is back. I think that's a really underrated piece of this lineup that comes back. The leader. This is a very, very young Georgia Tech team, right? John Giesler, graduate student coming back. I think he's super important. Drew Burress and Kyle Lodies, if they're at the top of the lineup, I'm obsessed with that because Kyle Lodies, what I love seeing about him is his approach at the plate. He's going to take a lot of walks. He's going to be on base a ton for Drew Burress, which is going to be huge. Kent Schmidt, he only hit 2 home runs last year for Georgia Southern. I saw him hit 2 home runs, no problem, against Jacksonville State in the fall. He's a good hitter. And if he added power to this, I mean, that's a game changer. But these freshmen are good. We're talking about Alex Hernandez, Drew Rogers, Connor Schaus. Those guys are going to force their way into some playing time. It's a very, very deep team, very young team, but I'm super, super excited to see this offense flourish. But the reason I think Georgia Tech is going to take a step forward is they're going into another year with pitching coach Matt Taylor, and they've got some really good young guys. The thing I was most impressed with their fall matchup against Jacksonville State was they threw mostly freshmen in those games. And they threw strikes, a lot of strikes. A lot of times, I think in the past, Georgia Tech has had some issues with command. I was really impressed. It was Connor Ciccoli who threw three really good innings, and then Ryan Johnson.
List for them. Yeah.
Yep, another freshman, Ryan Johnson, who threw 3 innings. That was really, really good. So those are 2 guys, freshman-wise. But another guy I think is going to make a monster step forward from a freshman to sophomore year is Tate McKee. I am on the Tate McKee hype train. I'm on the Tate McKee bandwagon. I think he's going to have a monster year. He started 8 games for them last year down the stretch. Once they kind of settled pitching wise, it was Aiden Finateri, then Cam Jones, then Tate McKee as the Sunday guy. And a lot of times you would see Tate McKee. Don't pay attention to his ERA. He had a 7.28 ERA last year, but if you watched him week in and week out, he would go a weekend where he'd get shelled a little bit, right? But then the next week, he'd come back and throw 6 shutout innings. So this is a guy that just needs to work on consistency and can really jump forward in his performance. And I think that's something that we're going to see from Tate McKee from his freshman to sophomore year as he gets more comfortable at the college level. I think he's going to have a monster season.
I'm going to mention one more freshman name for it. Cole Royer. I think that he's going to have a role in this team. I think there might be out of the bullpen, but he's a guy that can bring it. He can straight up throw fire. And then Carson Ballard also, I think he's going to get an opportunity to go out there and get some innings. So I really like what Georgia Tech's doing. I think that it's a shame that we have them at 9. They could be a lot higher. But yeah, was ranked.
I think Drew Rogers is 2 in his class.
Okay. I was just making sure that, like, I just wanted to just put it out.
Yes,
I thought the same thing.
I want to clarify that was just off rankings, not off ability or anything like that. Drew Rogers is the highest rated Georgia Tech.
He hit a home run when I saw him too, by the way.
Drew Rogers is a dude. It's just going to be where they put him in. I think they're going to force him in the lineup somewhere, whether it's DH, first, third, catcher. He's going to get opportunities to play.
Yeah. I don't know how much catcher he will see just because Vaughn Lackey defensively is one of the best catchers in the country.
Yeah. But again, as a catcher in college, they're not catching every single game. So I think that he might get.
I see him as a DH or a third base is where I really kind of project him to see.
Number 8, Wake Forest. Monty, as always, this Wake Forest team hasn't released their 2025 roster, but we know some of the guys that are going to be there. We're excited for this team. They have a lot of different guys coming in. They have some transfers in on the mound. They have some transfers in the outfield. They have some transfers all over the place. This Wake Forest team is rebuilding, but still really, really good.
It's funny. I think they've tricked us into thinking they're rebuilding. I think
this feels like it, right?
I think it's a trick. It's a trap. This pitching staff is going to be deeper and better than last year. So that's what's funny when you trick us into rebuilding. Yeah, they don't have a Chase Burns, but they can go 13, 14 arms deep. They've got guys with Friday night experience. You want to hear guys with Friday night experience? Luke Schmolk, Friday night experience. Matt Bedford, Friday night experience in the ACC. Both those guys with Friday night experience in the ACC. Logan Lunsford, Friday night experience in the SEC. Griffin Green, Friday night experience in the ACC. That's just 4 guys that bring Friday night experience. Then you bring in a really good transfer arm in Matthew Dallas. You've got some freshmen that should have been signed by pro teams that come with Chris Lavonis and Duncan Marston showing up. And then you've got 2 highly recruited freshmen that are now sophomores in Hayden LeFew and Blake Morningstar. They're going to have that jump that we've talked about freshman to sophomore year. And then you bring back your closer, your 2 best relievers in Will Ray and Zach Johnston. And Joe Areola had a monster summer and fall and has forced his way into the conversation. So this is a pitching staff that is deeper than last year and could result in Wake Forest being better than last year, even though they lost 3 first-round draft picks.
Yeah, they're not going to have to lean on guys to go 6, 7, 8 innings from the starting role. They could maybe throw 4 or 5 and be very comfortable bringing in anybody out of that bullpen. This team is deep. One transfer guy in that I'm very excited about, and as we talked about earlier, you said everybody in the country is excited about this guy, Mark. Ethan Conrad coming in, transfer from Marist, and he blew up in summer ball again, and I think that he's going to get a starting opportunity for them, and he might be a superstar. Yeah, Jake, I know. I'm coming to you next.
I have a comparison, Monty. They are 2022 Virginia Tech, but the inverse. Remember how
the pitching is just
where this team has no hitting, but they have one of the deepest pitching staffs. They're just I think we can kind of retire the Wake Forest nickname this year. I think they're going to win a lot of games 3-2, 3-1. We should call them Fake Forest for faking everybody that they're rebuilding.
I'm never calling them Fake Forest, Jake. That is never going to happen.
I like how you twisted to make it seem like it's a good thing. That's not a good name.
Calling somebody fake is never good, Jake. You heard it here first. Jake wants to call Rake Forest Fake Forest now. He's changing the nickname. Listen, we're very excited for the pitching staff here. It's going to have to see what their offense is. But if they're in ball games and they're close games, I think that this bullpen is going to make a world of difference for Wake Forest this year.
I think their offense is going to be okay. It's just not going to be Wake Forest.
It's going to be okay.
I don't think they're going to hit a lot of home runs either. That's the other thing.
Right. Their style of hitting is going to be different. They're going to string hits together. They're going to play some small ball. They've got speed, a lot of speed. I think they're going to run bases. They're going to find ways to score runs. It's not going to be, when Jake's making fun of them for this, I don't think he's necessarily being too mean. I think they're going to be fine, especially I think they have an upgraded catcher. Ethan Conrad, Merrick Houston, Jack Winay. Those are some guys, and you expect some of those freshmen from last year who got a lot of playing time to have another year of experience in Cameron Nelson, Tony Morales, Javier Williams. I think those guys are all going to have big jumps. So I think they're going to be okay.
Where do you see this team ceiling, Monty? Do you think that they can make it back to Omaha with the lineup that they have?
If everything goes right, yeah, I can see that.
They could win the ACC, honestly, if they came all the way through. And
they are set up for regional better than any team, I think, in the country, because their 3 or 4 game starter is going to be a Friday night guy in most places.
Yeah, I saw Griffin Green the first time I'd seen him back, because obviously he missed all of last year at Tech with the Tommy John surgery. He pitched in that fall scrimmage against West Virginia, and I think his velocity might have even been up from where it was at Virginia Tech.
I think you hinted that his off speed had a little bit more bite too, as well.
Yeah. So it's going to be really interesting.
Really good.
Yeah, so it's going to be really interesting to see, because you've got a couple of guys that didn't pitch last year, because Schmoke is somebody who didn't pitch last year because he transferred late. He did that. I think he did the December transfer window, so couldn't pitch in the spring for them. So he hasn't pitched against opponents since 2023. Same thing with Griffin Green with the injury, so that'll be interesting. But it's a very exciting roster, very exciting pitching staff. I can't wait to see what Corey Mascara does with it.
Let's move on to another team with a very, very, very exciting pitching staff, and we're going to let Jake start with this one. Number 7, UNC. They return arms and a lot of guys that were maybe missing some innings last year. Jake, talk about this team and where you're excited. I know that they had so much bullpen guys last year, and that's one of the keys that they made it there. I feel like their starting pitching is going to be healthy this year, and they can make some big difference.
Yeah, I mean, they had a big boost last year from a bunch of guys that really had breakout seasons for them. Parks Harbor is gone. Vance Honeycutt's another guy that's gone. But this is one where we were a little bit disconnected about. I know when I was talking to Micah, he was like, I just don't know how to rank UNC. They're missing a lot of people. I mean, they absolutely, I think, reloaded. They got in a few kind of underrated transfers in Sam Angelo out of a D3, Tyson Bass out of a D3 too as well. There's a few
Tyson Bass
that really kind of were under the radar. And then they get Luke Stevenson back. They get Jackson Vanderbrake back. Gavin Gallagher, who it seemed like,
they don't know that they get
figure out how to word it. Like, it seemed like the clutch gene got passed over from Vance Honeycutt to Gavin Gallagher. So there really is a lot to like about this UNC team, and they're going to be one that's going to be a mainstay. And it's kind of harkening back to those UNCs of the early 2010s, where every year you're circling UNC in that ACC, slate.
Yeah, Jake, Micah obviously didn't watch our UNC show when we had Grace on because there's a lot to love about this UNC team. I think I had Stanford as our number 3, and I think I would probably change that a little bit. I think UNC might be our number 3. With this pitching staff, you get Jake Knapp back, who was supposed to be their Friday night guy last year. You get Folger Boaz back, who was your Friday night guy to start the year last year. You have Jason DeCaro, who was your Friday night guy to end the year. So you've got 3 Friday night guys on your team. Plus the pitcher that really, you get Aiden Hall back, who was an 18th round draft pick of the Red Sox. He decides to come back. He was a swing man. He's probably coming out of the bullpen, but he was a very crucial part of their pitching staff. that's incredible. And that doesn't even include Kyle Percival, who just completely blew my mind this fall with how good he looked in his 2 outings in the scrimmages. And he'll have a chance to compete for a rotation spot. And then they have a lot of talented rising sophomores. I honestly cannot wait for this pitching staff, and I think I would have this pitching staff higher. But it's funny, I think he looks at some of the guys they got. I can't believe the guys they have found at the Division II, Division III JUCO level. Tyson Bass, the balls he was hitting, I think he went 5 for 5 in a game, and all 5 of his hits were over 100 mile per hour exit velocity.
He's been breaking
really underrated aspect
consistently.
Sorry, Mark.
No, you're good. I'm just saying Tyson Bass was hitting over 110 exit velocity all the time in fall ball. He absolutely has that pop. He's the dude. He could be, the best transfer in this whole conference this year. I'm very excited for UNC.
I'm excited.
An underrated guy in that lineup, McAdden Dye. I think Luke Stevenson's going to get a lot of time at DH to give him some rest behind the plate, since he started a whole 64 games behind the plate for him last year. McAdden Dye played 57 games for Liberty last year as their primary catcher as a freshman. I think he's a legit player. I think he's a really underrated part of the lineup when he gives Luke Stevenson rest, because I think he's obviously their catcher of the future, as Luke Stevenson is a sophomore eligible draft pick. McAdden Dye is going to get a lot of playing time, and I'm excited to see him break out.
Yeah, if this team is healthy, if their arms are healthy by the start of the season, there and all signs point to yes, that all those guys they're saying they've made returns, they should be ready to go. I know Boaz has already been thrown a little bit here in December, and if they're all healthy and ready to go, and Knapp's 100%, and you get DeCaro, you're talking about three guys that have that Friday night experience, like you said, Monty. This team has the front end guys, and Percival on the backside who might even get a chance to be in the weekend rotation. They're loaded. I love this team.
And Boston Flannery is another guy. When we did that deep dive, Grace mentioned a few times. I think he's another guy that could really kind of eat innings there in the middle for him. And they have just a ton of guys that accept their roles. I think that's the other thing that, when you want to have these good teams, elite teams that win it all, you have the Carter Frenches, you have the Reese Hollerbrooks, you have the Tyler Parks of guys that accept their role, that are big glue guys that take that team over the top. I think that they are one of those teams. I think Bonnie and I said there's 10 to 12 teams that could win the championship. I think UNC has to be in that group.
Yeah, before we move on, I think we do have to mention Kane Kepley, right?
Yeah.
I thought you mentioned him. You mentioned him.
I'm not sure I did.
I don't think we did.
Their biggest transfer name is Kane Kepley out of Liberty. I mean, he is a monster. He's defensively, he's going to be a little bit less than Vance Honeycutt, but he's very, very good defensively. So they found, I feel like, the perfect replacement, the bridge for Vance Honeycutt. He's not going to be Vance Honeycutt, but he's going to be very, very good. He's going to be he's probably a first round draft pick. He broke the record for walks for the Harbor Hawks in the Cape League this summer. I mean, very patient guy, can run a lot. I mean, he was 25 of 27 on stolen bases for Liberty last year, hits a ton of extra base hits. I am excited about him. He's probably going to be your leadoff guy as well.
Leadoff guy for sure. Yeah, he gives you that opportunity to build around that, and I love what this team's done. I'm very excited. Let's move on to number 6, NC State. Another team that is, another team that was there in Omaha last year, but they're rebuilding a little bit here, Monty. I'm gonna let you go into this team. I'm very excited for this team. Lots of guys that are coming back, and a lot of pitching.
Yeah, the pitching is going to be the big thing. I think they're going to run a lot more. One of the things I like about what Elliott Avent does is it seems like he can adapt his style to his team's strengths. And I think he realizes he's not going to have a ton of guys who hit home runs. He's going to try and manufacture some runs on the base pass. I think they got a lot of team speed. That's what I got from the fall scrimmages I went to for NC State. But you get some guys coming back who I'm excited about. Alex Sosa, who missed a lot of time last year. I think he had mono that caused him to miss some time, but he was a big part of their postseason. I mean, that average, he had a 230 average overall, but that doesn't do his
he was so good
justice.
In Omaha in postseason. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. Watching him hit that home run against Georgia in the supers, that was really cool. Luke Nixon's got another year. He played every game, basically felt like every game. Josh Hogue, Josh Hogue is back after that awful fracture of his leg. That's going to be huge. I really like Drew Lanphier as well to get some playing time. He looked really good in the scrimmages. He was probably the best hitter I saw over the 25 innings or 30 innings I saw of NC State this fall. But they bring in a lot of transfers, a lot of fun transfers. Ryan Jaros, who's a Monty favorite, as everyone knows, comes over from Georgia Tech. Unfortunately, he ended his season a little early with Georgia Tech last year in the UVA series when he injured his shoulder. But he hit 343 in 26 games as a freshman for Georgia Tech. You bring over Matt Austinfort from Vanderbilt. That's a guy that was a really, really highly recruited guy. He didn't get much playing time with them. But then another rising sophomore, Chris McHugh from VCU. The amount of VCU guys that transferred out that I saw a ton of because I went to VCU games. McHugh is a good looking guy who has a lot of power that could explode this year. And then the talented freshman Ty Head, who might get a chance in center field. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch offensively. But the strength of this team, Jake, is
pitching.
Pitching. I thought Jake's like me. No,
pitching.
No, it's pitching. Dom Fritton and we talked about it off the air here. Matt Willardson coming back. this is a guy that led this team in 2021, and it was a stud. And now you're getting him back and full healthy. If they say he's 100% ready to go, Monty, I'm gonna let you keep going on these pitches, but I'm just so excited for this pitch.
Yeah. Dom Fritton, you hope he has a bounce back year. He was a draft eligible sophomore, didn't have a great season. He's going to try and have a bounce back. Those two are your Friday and Saturday guys. But these their freshman class from last year is huge because Ryan Marone and Cooper Consiglio are going to compete for that Sunday role. Two really good guys. I mean, Ryan Marone got 10 starts last year. He went 4-2 with a sub 4 ERA. Cooper Consiglio stepped up when Shane Van Dam went down and became a critical part of their bullpen that got them to Omaha. He got a Team USA invite. He's really exciting. And then, but the back end of that bullpen, man, you go Jacob Duden, who's 27 appearances, 4-2, 56 strikeouts, 6 saves, 48 innings, unbelievable talent. The fastball slider combo from him is just unreal. He supposedly developed another pitch as well. He's going to be you're going to basically have co-closers, but Derek Smith also has one of the best sliders in the conference. Those two guys are lights out at the end of innings and at the end of games, excuse me. And that's gonna be huge. And then you've got a couple of rising sophomores who are poised to have breakout years in Jackson Lucas, Camden Wimbish, and Heath Andrews. All three of those guys are going to get a chance to shine.
To me, this team feels like a team that's going to keep getting better throughout the season and be very good when they get down to the postseason stretch here. Jake, do you got anything you want to add on to this NC State roster?
Monty really kind of touched on it.
Nailed it. Yeah.
I guess he did touch on that I had notes on was Jet Gilliam. He's a JUCO guy coming over, hit nearly 500. I think he's going to be in the mix for that outfield role. But again, you got to be a dog to start at some of these teams, and NC State's no exception. Every single inning is going to be fought for. There's just a ton of versatility to it, this lineup. There's a lot that Elliot David can do with it. I think it's going to be like almost a throwback NC State team with how much they're going to do hit and runs, steal bases, stuff like that. I expect Luke Nixon to kind of have a breakout season. I know he only hit 238. He's going to be the one that I really think kind of takes that next step forward because the kid can flat out rake. When you watch him take BP, it's not one where he's trying to hit the ball 500 feet. He has a very, very mature approach when he takes BP.
Alex Sosa is on my very short list also of guys that are going to be a breakout candidate. He could be a guy that hits 330 and 20 home runs. He might be the only guy on that roster where I say this guy is that double-digit home run threat that you're looking at, and I really like what Alex Sosa brings back.
It's funny you mentioned the breakout guys. I just want to point out for my breakout guys, they can't be Team USA or Conference All Selections or have played over 35 games. So Sosa and Nixon are out for numerous reasons, but they are both poised for breakout years.
That's fair.
Nationally breaking out, Monty.
Yeah. There you go.
Sosa got to 36 games, so he just passed that 35 game barrier for you.
Yeah, but he was also Team USA catcher.
Team USA guy too. Yeah.
So he got eliminated. He actually 35 games or less. He would have fit it. He would have made it.
Move on. Number 5. Let's get into it. Duke baseball. Jake, I'm gonna let you start here because I know. Just go ahead. Get your thing in.
Wallace Clark.
I know.
Yeah, Wallace Clark and Ben Miller. The best side of the infield in the whole country. We get another year of Ben Miller. We get another year of Wallace Clark. We get another year of Jake Berger. I mean, this is, we always say this isn't your dad's Duke team. This is your grandfather's Duke team. There's a ton of guys that seem like they've just been there forever at Duke. They're an old team. It's Chris Pollard's 14th year. They're almost like anti-Miami, where what you see is what you get off of this team. They return a ton of guys, kind of underrated guys you can really kind of look to kind of take steps forward. Mason Winslow is one guy to watch out for. Later behind the plate, I think those are going to be the two that are kind of competing for the job down there. But there's Monty can kind of get into the specifics, but this is Micah's Duke team since Micah doesn't do fall baseball. Micah's going to know all about this Duke team.
I don't think so. To mention Wallace Clark and Ben Miller, so I was going to let you start with this one.
Well, Monty's the Ben Miller guy. I'm the Wallace Clark guy.
I know. That's why I said you're going to start with Wallace Clark. He's literally listed first. I said Jake's going to mention Wallace Clark. That's literally in my notes right there. Monty, go ahead.
No, this is a really, really fun team. They do bring back a lot of guys. You bring back, bringing back KJ and Gracia are huge. And like Jake said, making Winslow is going to get a chance to break out. Those three guys, but there's another couple of guys from that recruiting class that I think could have breakout years. Sam Harris, he has got some power. He's 6'5", Iowa corn-fed power. He only had 7 at-bats last year, but the coaching staff was raving about him. D1 Baseball's raving about him. I'm raving about him. And then Noah Murray, who had a monster summer, was our Duke player of the summer. Those two guys could push for playing time. But you bring in a lot of graduate transfers once again. That seems to be Duke's MO lately. Jake Hyde will probably play first base. Georgetown guy had a monster season for them last year. Jake Berger from Harvard, another Harvard guy. They love their Harvard guys. He's probably going to be at second. And then Ben Rounds, another Harvard guy. He's going to be in the outfield joining Gracia and probably Tyler Albright in that outfield with Kyle Johnson DHing when he's not pitching. But they've got a lot of depth here. Jimmy Evans is somebody who didn't play much until the postseason and then basically just went off. I mean, he had a home run in the regional, big sac fly, and hit in the ACC semifinals. Very, very good player. And then I was really impressed. Jeff Lugge, freshman, really talented freshman, probably their highest recruited freshman. He won their home run derby, and he was just tanking balls, and he could be their shortstop of the future.
The other thing we didn't even mention into yet is the pitching staff. James Talon, David Bovair, Gabe Nard. Andrew Healy is one of those guys that if he takes that next step, he could be a stud for this team. I think that the pitching staff here is a little underrated also for Duke this year.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and KJ is going to be your Friday night guy. Look how good he was as a freshman. You expect that big jump. Andrew Healy, you want him to stay healthy and continue to grow where he was. He had some injury issues last year. We talked a little bit about it off air. Owen Proch and James Talon, you'd expect to have bounce back seasons. They didn't have the best years after having outstanding freshman campaigns. But Aiden Weaver is a guy that I really like as well. And then Henry Zetkowski is a freshman that they seem to like a lot. It drove me a little nuts because I had to remind myself that number 12 left-handed pitcher is not Jonathan Santucci. It is a freshman. And then you've got some veteran guys they bring in like Mark Hindy and Reed Easterly, who I really like as well.
Yeah, I think that this team is just overall it's built. It's a lot of senior leadership mixed with those guys. I think that this team has the ability to go a long ways. But like Jake said, they are what they are. We've seen what they are. We kind of know. We expect
really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why they're ranked high, right? Because we there's not a lot of question marks coming in other than can they stay healthy like every other team. So
I do have a question. Now that we've done all four of kind of the Tobacco Road teams, how many of them host regionals this year? Because I feel like it's a safe bet to say at least one of them will.
How many between Duke, North Carolina State, and UNC, and Wake
Yes.
Forest?
Yes.
Yeah, Tobacco Road is the area in North Carolina where they grew tobacco, Mark, and that's where all those schools are.
I know. Didn't I just nail all four?
Well, then why? Yeah. So why did you need to confirm all four? You should have just known.
Because I
This is
live
an
in
ACC
Oregon,
show,
and I'm like
Mark. I know
3,000
this.
miles away from the Tobacco Road.
Yeah, but you're not too far from ACC country.
I mean, he is actually. He's probably 1,500 miles.
It's still 1,500 miles down to Cal.
Oh, well,
Let's see. So, hosting, how many of those teams host a regional? 3?
3. Wow.
all
Monty,
of them. They're all
you
hosting.
think all 4?
They all 4 hosts.
Monty thinks actually the host should just be 16 ACC teams.
There you go. Boom.
I mean,
Boom.
give me 15 in Hawaii, and I'll jump
You know,
on that board.
if they're gonna pull this crap with the college football playoff, you know what? Give all 16 ACC teams the hosting bids for baseball.
This is going to be a terrible tangent.
Let's move on to our number 4 team, Clemson. Now, they're a team that has a lot of returning studs. They're a team that a lot of people expect to be better than last year. Jake, what?
Before we get into this, the rankings are so skewed because Micah has Clemson at 1.
I know that none of us had Clemson as high as Micah. We had them
I don't
in
think
our
I
top
have
8.
at 9.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
So-
Mike is
So if you're coming after us for Clemson being so low, it's because Micah ranked them number 1.
so high, you mean, or so
Yes.
good on our rankings? Yeah.
Yes.
But they still have some dudes. And Monty, I'm gonna let you start here with this team. It's got to start around Cam Camarella, right?
Yeah, it could. I mean, he's pretty good. He's pretty good. I mean, he had a major shoulder injury last year, but he played through and still hit 337 with a 30 extra base hits and 60 RBIs. That's going to probably be improved upon with a healthy shoulder. But they bring in some dudes. I'm a big fan of Colin Priest from Michigan. He really impressed me when I saw them play. He's a big dude.
Big body
big dude. So by the way, Clemson continues the tradition of grabbing Michigan players for Eric Bakich. It's their third straight year getting a Michigan transfer in there. So Bakich is 3 for 3 in years at Clemson and years poaching a Michigan player. Luke Gaffney is going to catch for them player of the year, freshman of the year for the Big Ten last year. He's a redshirt sophomore, which means he is draft eligible, folks. Andrew Sifo is back. That's huge. Tristan Becerra, I think, is going to have a monster year. For some reason, I think he's super underrated. It's funny because I know how good he is, and yet I'll forget about him sometimes. And I really apologize for that if you're watching Tristan Becerra, but you are an absolute stud.
We do love you. Yes.
Yeah. He had a great summer. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out. I love their freshman class as well. TP Wentworth is a dude. Josh Castellani is a dude. Anthony Welke, who I thought was supposed to only be a pitcher, apparently this dude can hit, and he hit an absolute missile when I saw him play. He's a 6'6" dude, just an absolute monster. And then on the pitching side, you've got Aiden Kanak, who should continue to be a dude. But then the question after that is who's the next man up there? They really like Noah Samole. He was injured last year, I believe, with TJ. He was at Georgia Tech. He's a transfer. He'll get a chance to be in the rotation. Luke Kissenberth from the Citadel, Michael Gillen, from Seton Hall. Those are guys that are going to get a chance in the rotation. But the bullpen I think is going to be pretty deep with Drew Titsworth back, Rocco Reed, Joe Allen. Obviously, you've got Lucas Malstead and that funky arm slot delivery at the end of the bullpen. So lots of guys. I think Hudson Lee, he's a transfer from Wake Forest. I think he's going to have a potential breakout year. He's dropped his arm slot and looked much more effective than he did in his years at Wake Forest.
Ethan Darden's another guy that coming in there. He could be your Sunday starter. He could also be the guy that you're looking at in that strengthening the bullpen. He could be your breakout player there for Clemson. Jack Crichton, another guy in the outfield that's going to be out there with Canarella. I think that this team is quietly loaded up, and maybe Micah's onto something. I don't know. Maybe he knows something. Maybe he can see into the crystal ball. I didn't have them as high as 1, but I do think that this team is very good. Jake, what do you want to add on here with Clemson?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Jack Crichton and Dom Listy, and then to some extent Jacob Jarrell as the DH, because Dom Listy is another guy that's coming over from Indiana State that has a ton of experience. Indiana State is a mid-major, but they played in that super regional a few years. Dom Listy was a really big reason why that was the case. And then Colin Priest, I got to see him when Michigan came into Texas, and there wasn't a lot of talent on that Michigan team last year, and he was far and away the best one that they had. I think he had a home run that weekend too as well. If not, he had a really, really long double. I think he's going to be a guy that doesn't miss a beat coming over from a mid-major conference into the ACC. Same with Luke Gaffney to some extent. And then Cam Canarella, I think that he's just going to be on another level. It's going to be him, Drew Burris, and Jace Levelad. I think they're the 3 guys that we're going to be talking about as the 3 national players of the year. And Canarella has every argument to be in that Golden Spikes.
Jake, I'm going to make you sit down and listen to me talk about Big Ten baseball for hours and hours and hours.
He did it twice.
Because you keep calling him a mid-major.
I do in my projected lineup for Clemson. I do have Jack Crichton as the odd man out, but it's clear they've got 10 guys, 9 spots. With I think how opening day is going to shake out. So it'll be interesting to see who the odd man out is, whether it's Crichton or Becerra or whoever.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I just think Becerra and Crichton, they both deserve to play, but again, There's only 9 spots, so
Yeah,
it'll be tough
and
to
Jacob
see.
Jarrell could
Right at
also be.
Clemson last year. I don't know why I feel like he was at Louisville.
No, he played a lot of first base for them last year when
I don't know why
when,
I feel like he was at Louisville.
Jack Payton.
No, I don't know.
You just love Jack Payton that you just want to bring him up. He's been gone for 2 years.
I think it's 3 years, right? Wasn't he drafted in
I
20?
don't know. Well, folks,
2022.
if you've loved our ACC breakdown so far for the preview, Monty is going to be leading up our whole ACC preview shows, and he's going to be taking care of all of these in deep dives. So this is just the tip of the iceberg for us getting into it. I know I'm going to co-star on a couple shows here with Monty, which will be fun. I believe Jake might jump in on a couple, and I know Micah hopefully is going to be in on some. And we're going to get really deep diving into this ACC, and we're going to have shows out for you. I know Monty's already been releasing a ton of stuff, doing a lot of interviews with players. I've done a couple coaches for him. He's done some assistant coaches. I know that we have some more stuff coming for you before December ends, and then he's going to be doing the deep dive. So be paying attention. It's going to come out here on our YouTube. It's going to come out on Twitter Live. It's going to go out on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So be making sure you're paying attention for all that ACC stuff, and I'm excited for it, Monty. And let's get on to number 3.
Yeah,
Stanford.
subscribe, and follow.
Yeah, do all the things, guys.
That'll help you. That'll help
stuff.
Pay attention. Yeah, come on.
Yeah,
give us some love.
We would love subscribes and follows on especially on the YouTube there and any of our podcasts.
On the
Stanford.
YouTube.
On the YouTube.
You sound like an old man.
I'm the YouTube, 57 years old.
And internet thing.
The Duke's team.
Go
Duke's
on to the interwebs and like and subscribe on the YouTube, guys. Get after it. Number 3, Stanford. There is so much to like about this Stanford team, and I know I got
way too high.
Stanford too high.
We love Stanford way too much.
I love Stanford, and Coach Esker. I love Esker. I've been able to speak to him. I've been able to go out and talk to him. I've talked to him 2 years ago in Omaha. I'm a big, huge fan of David Esker and what he brings to this club. I think that Stanford is taking a huge step forward. I think that this ACC season, they're going to be really, really, really good. Jake, I'll let you start with Stanford here because there's so much to like, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I take that 22-33 record with a little bit of a grain of salt. I believe they just paid the piper last year.
They knew what they had. They knew what they had. And Stanford.
I mean, they went to Omaha 3 straight years. They were a very, very veteran-led team all 3 years. So it really was just Malcolm Moore, and he hit under 200 for them. So
they lost 13 guys to the draft.
Yeah, I mean, it's
going to be rebuilding.
And they're not a transfer portal team. They're not they have limits in who they can admit. And how does David Esker respond? He doesn't bitch and moan. He goes out and he signs an insanely good class. Headlined by Japanese sensation Ritiro Sasaki.
Rintaro
Sasaki. Well, if you like foreigners, they have an Australian too. Jimmy Naty's going to probably start.
Jimmy Natai. Jimmy Natai.
Dude, this is why I'm not going to say that. That's really bad, actually. And Charlie Bates, I think, too, is another guy that I think
it's pronounced. No, I'm just kidding. That one, you got that one right.
It's Charlie Batts. He's another guy where I think that they're going to try and have to find a spot for him. He's a super, super talented freshman. I believe he's the highest rated ACC freshman coming in, right, Monty? Oh, no.
Hunter Carnes.
I've seen him just at the top of a ton of lists. How Esker kind of uses him, I think, will go a long way. And I know that we said this last week, Tim Corbin, about, trust Tim Corbin. Trust David Esker. This guy knows how to get the best out of his lineup. This guy seems like all the right strings to pull in a bullpen set. It's going to be a very, very talented team, and it's going to be one where every single ACC team is kind of going to put their head down and go, oh, crap, we have to go out to Palo Alto to play these guys. They're going to be a deep, deep team. They have 9 or 10 guys that you think could be in the mix for starting roles. So there's a lot to like about the Stanford team.
Listen, they lose Malcolm Moore. We talked about that. Charlie Psalm is no downgrade at catcher. I'm really excited for the Charlie Psalm at catcher there. Monty, you're like, this is not a downgrade. He's good. He's good,
Yeah.
Monty. But I'm gonna let you
He
go
might
ahead and
even
get
be
it.
better, in my opinion.
I
I
really
would
like
take
Charlie
him.
Psalm, and I think that he's kind of an underrated guy going into this season for them, just because people don't really pay attention to what Stanford did last year. But Charlie Psalm's going to be a dude for them behind the dish, and he's going to work with his pitching staff. Monty, I'll let you go with the pitching staff.
Yeah, that's why I have them ranked so high. I know their numbers don't do them justice, but they're returning something like 98% of the innings they threw last year.
98%.
Something insane like that. I think Nalu is the only guy that they lost. The pitcher. Oh no, I've got the 3 pitchers they lost. It was they lost a total of 11.1 innings.
Yeah,
that's it
from all of last year.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot to like. Matt Scott, Joey Volchko, and Christian Lim. Those are going to be your rotation guys. I know their numbers don't do them justice. Volchko, I watched a lot during the summer. Oh my goodness, he is nasty. And Matt Scott, that guy is a big guy. He's 6'7",
6'7", 6'8". Yeah, it kind of depends on what scale you're rating on.
Yeah, he's gonna
on the gas station.
Yeah, he's gonna be the ace. His numbers don't do him justice. I think he got a lot of that experience is gonna help him. Christian Lim, obviously a freshman All-American. So that's your three guys in the rotation. And then you got Nick Dugan, who can be your midweek starter or a bullpen ace. You've got Trevor Moore, who was the Cape Cod reliever of the year. He was 10 on 10 on saves. I think he gave up I don't think he gave up a run.
He didn't give up a run. I don't believe he gave up an earned run.
Yeah, he didn't give up an earned run, and that's not even the guy who's projected to be your main closer, because Torrin O'Haron is back, and he had 7 saves last year. So lots to like about this pitching staff. And that I didn't even get into any of the freshmen they brought in. I mean, they have such a deep pitching staff on the front end that they may not – a lot of these freshmen may not get a lot of looks.
Yeah, they're going to be bullpen guys. All those freshman guys are basically going to be bullpen when I talk to Coach. But you're going to go Matt Scott, Christian Lim, and then Joey Volchko is going to be your Sunday guy. Like, that's crazy to me when you look at that threesome and say, okay, that's really tough to go out there. And
Joey Volchko could be a top 10 2026 pick.
And he might be the Sunday starter.
Yeah,
that's crazy. And you're saying, oh, we got to go take 2 or 3 from them, especially if you're going to go to the Sunken Diamond. Good luck. I think that's why I had them so high, is because this team's pitching is so deep, and I know, especially in this ACC conference, pitching is going to win a lot of ball games.
Right, their offense is not going to just be Rentaro, but that pitching staff and Rentaro is why I have them so high.
100%. And Jimmy Nadai and Charlie Psalm also are going to add a lot to that offense.
Brady Reynolds and Court McDonald.
Yeah, Court McDonald's he's going to get that job in center. I mean, they're good. They're good.
Is that the toughest place to go play in the ACC this year, the Sunken Diamond?
Because of the distance and everything
it not really being a rowdy atmosphere. You really do kind of have to create your own. On top of Stanford being really good, is that the toughest place to go play in the ACC this year?
A 7 p.m. West Coast game is a 10 p.m. start game for the East Coast guys. So, and that's when that Friday night's going to start.
Pitt's the hardest place to go play because it doesn't get warm until mid-May.
The fall. Remember how they were complaining about that would have been out in May, and this is the
Palo Alto, Sunken Diamond releases nice weather, and you're going to go down there. Yeah. It's going to be nice down there, and you're going to have between 1,000 and 4,000 fans to show up. And it's it's not a super loud stadium, but it's got a lot of history. It's got a lot of character.
Yeah, it's a great place to go play as a player, but you really do have to kind of create your own environment, and you have to be a really, really cohesive unit to travel across the country and play there.
We got 2 teams left, and they could have gone either way, 1-2. I don't think that I had them the way that we have them overall here in our settings, but we're going to go number 2, Virginia. This Virginia squad, there's so much to like about it, and the fact that Jay Wolfrick didn't get drafted and he's back again for another season. I'm very excited about this Virginia club, especially after being in Omaha last year and getting to see a lot of these guys. Monty, I'm going to let you start because I know how much your love for this Virginia squad is this season.
Yeah, I have them number 1. I actually think they're in a tier above Florida State because of the experience they have. Florida State's gonna be relying on a lot of young guys, so I have Virginia actually ranked number 1. I have them in a tier with the LSU's and and the A&Ms and the Arkansas. I have them in that tier above Florida State. Just this lineup's unbelievable. And they lit up in the fall. You're talking about guys that hit 300 all, everybody hit like at least 286 is the lowest guy you got coming back. Chris Arroyo is one of the best JUCO players in the country. He's going to be potentially your Sunday guy and their first baseman. And he had an outstanding fall, really impressive guy. They have all these talented freshmen. I'm not sure how they're going to get playing time for these guys because their offense is so deep. But what has me so excited about this Virginia team, we know their offense is going to hit. This is not your father's Virginia team either, by the way, because growing up watching these UVA teams, it was a lot of small ball and stringing hits together and getting on base and then pitching defense. Their starting outfield might hit 70 home runs. You've got Didewick, who hit 23 last year. You got Henry Ford, who hit 17, and then you got Aiden Teal, who had 3 home runs and like 10 at bats. Yeah. So those might be your starting 3 outfielders. They could each hit 20 home runs in theory. And then you got Jacob Ferentz, who didn't get drafted back. He hit 17 home runs. You got we already talked about Didewick, and you've got Godbout and Hansen and Becker. Becker's put on 20 pounds, and he hit 8 home runs last year as a freshman. He's looking to be the starting shortstop. It's between him and Godbout. I know Godbout had a little bit of an injury coming back from the Cape, but
I think it's going to push him to second base because of it. I think that injury kind of pushed him out of the race for shortstop. Continue.
And this pitching staff, Evan Blanco has looked fantastic and has supposedly added velocity. And then you've got Jay Wolflick, who seemed to have turned a corner in the postseason last year, and that's huge if he can continue that. That's a really dangerous one, probably the most underrated 1-2 punch in the ACC. But then you've got Chris Arroyo, who's probably going to be the Sunday guy, and then you've got all these guys coming back. You've got Matt Augustine, who was big. Bryson Moore, who was really good as a freshman, didn't get a ton of innings because he got injured. He was supposed to be relied on a lot more, but he had a 1.38 ERA in 13 innings. You've Charlie O'Shell, the brother of Fran O'Shell. He looked fantastic. He didn't get much time last year, but he looked really good this fall. You bring in a bunch of guys, but the 2 freshmen, I'm excited. The 2 left-handers, William Kirk and Thomas Valencius, those 2 guys are just absolutely nasty. I believe Valencius was getting Danny Holtzen comparisons by Aaron Fitt, which is always a good thing. Danny Holtzen, one of the great UVA pitchers in school history. Those 2 guys I think probably should have gotten drafted, but luckily they're on grounds for UVA. And Jake, what are you watching over there? Football on?
No, it's not. I was just reading all their departures with everything on our list.
All their departures, and yet still.
And they're still good. I'm really excited for this Virginia.
Yeah, they're the preseason number 1, I think, for me. Like they bring back a ton of their. Why'd you make that face, Monty? Who else would you put up there?
You just hate Texas A&M.
Yeah, you caught me. I lineup than A&M, and
A&M's not there
better
for me, but
pitching rotation than A&M too. Which is weird on an ACC. That should tell you how good they are. Is that we're talking about SEC teams on an ACC preview, and Monty is not throwing his hand up in arms, all pissed off. That tells you how good this UVA team is. Like you said, Godbout and Becker at short and second. Like you said, he's going to be pushed to second. But the flip side of that is you're getting a shortstop that can play second base. The range, I think,
and
is
third,
really, really good.
Yeah.
And Luke Hansen at third too. I mean, we've talked about it with on my SEC show where there's a few teams that can play 3 center fielders in the outfield. Playing 3 shortstops in the infield is an unreal thing. And on top of that, they're going to hit at an alarming rate. And then their downfall has always kind of been their elite pitching. They don't really have a Friday night guy. I think that Jay Wolflick's going to take that huge step forward and move into that upper echelon of ACC teams. They've been to Omaha the last 3 years, and this is, I think, the best team of the 3.
I'm going to say that this might be the best offensive team that they've had in my history of watching UVA baseball, and I'm very excited. I just can't
And
believe that this is what they were doing.
and they've been a top 5 offensive team
I
nationally
know.
over the last 2 years. So that's.
I'm just saying. I think that this
Oh, I
might
know.
be
I
the
was just
best
pointing out.
UVA offense ever.
Yeah, this is going to be a team
it's
where we
crazy.
run out of superlatives. My prediction's mid-March. Mid-March, we're going to run out of superlatives on UVA.
Well, and they may get back. They should get back Jack O'Connor and maybe get back Bradley Hodges during the season. So that could be a huge boost to the pitching staff as well.
They might.
I'm very excited I
home
get
runs.
to see them because they come to Texas. It's like an underrated treat for me that I'll get to see UVA. It's probably the weekend I'm most excited for.
And they are testing themselves early. They'll be in Puerto Rico to start the year and Texas the weekend after. That'll be a lot of fun.
I love it.
I think that they play Oregon State and Oklahoma. So two teams two teams went to the tournament, one of them hosts a regional, and 2 teams that return a ton of talent.
Yeah.
I mean, didn't they both host a regional?
Oregon State.
Oklahoma hosted as well. Yeah.
So both teams hosted.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. They were undeserving.
Let's get on to our last team. Obviously, the number 1 team that we have ranked, Florida State. We know what they bring. But Jake, you can go first.
This one, I wanted to
raising your
clarify.
hand.
This was Noah that ruined the ranking.
I forgot Noah had votes. I forgot he has things.
This is not Micah's play. This is
Noah doesn't even like college baseball. He's not even watching the show.
Florida State at number 1. There's a reason for it. Link Jarrett is a big part of that, right? Being one of the best coaches in the country, but then he's also got this pitching staff and this team. It's a lot of new players on the team, though. Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it obviously starts at the top with Jamie Arnold and Cam Leiter. If they can get Cam Leiter back early,
we still don't know anything about it. He still hasn't pitched. We don't know
yet.
anything. Yep.
Yeah.
Which is weird because Jared's such a talker. Like you think you would get the answer out of him just randomly.
He talks, never gives you answers. I could talk with Coach for 30 minutes and not get an answer on anything I just asked.
Yeah. But I think Alex Lodi's up the middle. He has the potential to be an all ACC shortstop for him.
Got the right Lodi's this time.
Got it.
I know. I double checked it. I think he has the potential to take a huge step forward. He plays Gold Glove level shortstop, and if he can get over that 300 kind of benchmark at Florida State, it's going to be huge for him. Center field, Gage Charleston coming over. I think Bonnie has him in left field, but again, like the same thing that we just talked about with all the shortstops, that outfield at Florida State is very underratedly big. Like it's an old jewel box style stadium. They almost need a center fielder to play left field with how much room is out there.
Center fielders.
They get Max Williams over there in right field, so they're completely trifecta there. Drew Farrow is another guy I think that's going to take huge steps forwards. Yes, he hit 286, but I think he's another one where you can kind of move him up into that tier of an all ACC level. Cal Fisher, I think, is another one that you could kind of track. But again, the pitching, they did lose a little bit of guys, but like I said, they're going to go as far as Jamie Arnold takes them. And I remember doing that preview show where you're like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I feel like Jamie Arnold is even better than he was last year. And that is a scary thing for these teams in the ACC.
As hard as it was on Ole Miss last year, Florida State's bringing in Wes Mendez, and I think that he might get that Sunday job, and that might really add on to this team. Sorry, Monty, I didn't mean to cut you off there with the Jamie
No,
Arnold.
you're fine. I was going to say Jamie Arnold has worked very hard on that changeup, and he now has 3 really good pitches: the fastball, a slider, and now a changeup. And he threw the changeup a lot during the fall, and nobody could hit it.
It's breaking away from right-handed hitters. So now he's got something that's breaking in on their hands. He's got something breaking away from him with that changeup down and away.
and props to him for knowing, having the foresight and the maturity to realize, hey, I at the college level I can do enough with the fastball slider to dominate, but I'm looking forward to my career and my draft stock, and that's going to be, I think he's going to be the first pitcher off the board. But what I want to talk about, the guy who I think is going to take a big step forward, Jackson West, I think he's going to shoot up the draft boards. He's brought on about 30 pounds of weight and has been hitting some absolute missiles, but they're going to have, like we said, they're going to have 3 center fielders: Gage Harrelson in left, Chase Williams in center. Chase Williams is a JUCO who is going to be unbelievable. I think he might be their best player. And then Max Williams in right returns. That's big, but they're going to start 2 freshmen. I think they're going to start both Miles Bailey and Hunter Carnes. I think you're going to see Carnes as the DH.
Miles Bailey's
stuff
going to play first base, and he's going to. Oh my God, this guy, the ceiling on him is so ridiculous.
And I got excited. I thought I was going to be able to get him for my freshman of the year. We kind of missed. I absolutely love Miles Bailey. He's going to be the guy that you see in like edits for the next like 10 years in
I'm
college
very
baseball.
excited for Miles Bailey.
Yeah.
I was just waiting for Monty.
the clips, the bombs that he was
Oh,
hitting that we've
geez.
seen videos. He hit some out of the ballpark, like onto the street.
And it
I
looks
mean,
so easy. His swing just looks so smooth, and it's like, oh my goodness, if that's what we're getting.
We need some Family Guy edits of Miles Bailey hitting home runs.
Yeah. But yeah, the pitching staff's going to be interesting. I think it's a very deep pitching staff. But yeah, if Cam Leiter isn't there, the question is you're probably looking at Wes Mendez and Evan Kress stepping into those spots, and that's not bad. Mendez had a little bit of trouble in his fall outing, but you know,
He was up and down.
Yeah, but
I think Abraham's another guy that they could kind of stretch out too. Almost use like and he's. I think it was either from you or from D1 where he's up to 98 with his fastball.
It's probably, I think D1 might have said, but he's looked good. I mean, he's somebody, he got a start in Omaha last year and could make that jump, but he also looked really good in the Cape being a closer. So they've got options there. But yeah, I really like the pitching staff. They get a lot of guys back who were injured. They have like 3 redshirt freshmen who missed time last year, who are back. And you know, a bunch of, you know, 3 guys that were freshmen who got some experience can make that jump to a sophomore year. I'm really excited about this Florida State team, but yeah, a lot of talent, a lot of JUCO guys. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Third year with Link Jarrett.
How fast Link Jarrett's reloaded. Back into a monster.
Third year there. Hey, as much as Florida State has been to the World Series, they still have never won one, which is just chaos. It's crazy. But I'm excited for this season. So that's our rankings 1 through 16. You guys can like them, love them, hate them, whatever. Comment on it. Let us know. We'll answer you guys' questions. We're all about answering
I personally hate the rankings.
That's fair. I mean, yeah.
I think I have a 16-way tie for number 1.
Now we're going to get into the superlatives that we love. We're going to get into the things that, you know, some of these end of the year awards, some of these things that break down and talk a little bit about. We're going to start with Coach of the Year. I'm going to let you go first, Monty. I'm going to let you go first this time. You're going to go first on Coach of the Year.
All right. Well, I've got 2. So,
well, I hope you don't take mine.
I'm going Mike Bell. I'm going Mike Bell.
Love that.
And Danny Hall.
Okay.
Yep.
I think Mike Bell is going to get Pitt into the tournament this year. I think somehow, some way, Pitt's going to the NCAA tournament. They're going to break that drought for the first time since 1995. And then Danny Hall and Georgia Tech, I think they're going to have a monster year. I think they're going to host a regional.
I love that. I love that. Jake, who are you going with?
JD Ortega for Miami. I think they're.
I love that too.
Mark's crossing off names off his.
I know. Well, I had Ortega and David Esker. I think that.
Esky,
when you bring in coaches that have such experience and you're bringing them into a new conference, you get a little bit of that luster. You're like, oh man, new coach. And then I think if Stanford does what we believe that they can do with the pitching staff, I believe that he'll be up there for that award and being able to be Coach of the Year this year. I think Stanford has that ability to help him and get that award. Newcomer of the Year. So this is somebody that's either transferred in to the conference. No, if they were already on Stanford or if they were already on Cal, they don't count as transfers in, Jake. But newcomer of the year, so transfer in or a freshman, and I'll let you go first, Jake.
Let me see.
You're not going to stick with your freshman that you were already just.
I thought you said newcomer. I thought you
newcomer. It's a freshman or a transfer.
How many shows have you done?
Oh, I got confused. I thought we were doing 2. That's my bad.
No, you can.
So I guess I'll do 2 then because I wrote them down. Miles Bailey is going to be my freshman of the year. Like I said, unreal. We just the last 5 minutes talking about him. And then Colin Priest at Clemson is going to be my newcomer of the year. You know, the tremendous talent, experienced bat. I think he's going to be a big part of the cog and machine that is the Clemson Tigers this year. So I'm really excited for those 2 guys.
Those are 2 good ones. So I like that, Jake. Monty.
I'm going to let you go first, Mark.
Okay, I'll go first. My freshman is Drew Rogers, catcher for Georgia Tech. I think that he's going to get in the lineup at some point. And if Georgia Tech is as good as Monty keeps telling me they're going to be this year, I believe he's going to be a big reason for that. And my transfer is Tyson Bass. I think he's going to make a huge thing for UNC. I think he's going to be just massive to replace some of that offense that they're missing from a year ago.
All right, so my transfers, I'm going to give you a couple more. Kane Kepley, I'm going with UNC as well. Kane Kepley, I mean that's a no-brainer. But Chris Arroyo, I think the impact he's going to have for Virginia, both offensively and on the mound. And then freshman Tage Davis at Louisville, I am all on him. And then Tyler Head, center fielder for NC State.
I love it. I mean, there's so many guys we could talk about here. That's why I love talking about these awards. But we're throwing some out there so you folks that are out there, you can pay attention, keep an eye on these guys. They're going to make big differences and big changes for your team. Breakout candidate. This is somebody that was already in the ACC that maybe didn't have the best seasons or seasons, and we're trying to look at guys that maybe could make that big step forward and help their team out. I'm going to go first here because I'm selfish and I want to take on this one because I've been very excited for this one. I told Monty in the pre-show and he was like, "You're a dick for stealing this guy." Ryan Zuckerman from Pitt. I think that he has the ability to hit 20 home runs and be a dude for Pitt and really lead Coach Bell. I love what Zuckerman has done, and I think that he's going to be a huge step for Pitt. Jake,
by the way, I think real quick, I think he was Jake's pick or somebody's pick for freshman of the year last year as a dark horse candidate.
He might have been Jake's pick for freshman of the year last year.
Yeah, but he hit 267 in 50 games with 9 home runs, 31 RBIs, was a very, very big part. And he missed all of the fall. And now he gets his first full fall as a sophomore. I think that's a very great pick.
I think just with that, right? Like that, the season was just below the tick of that. He could be huge. He could be a 320 home run guy. Jake,
I'm going to go Vaughn Lackey down at Georgia Tech. I think that he took some big steps forward from his average. I think that he is just over that 35 game threshold, Monty. But I think I should get a little bit of a pass since he hit kind of down near the Mendoza line around his weight. The defensive versatility, I think, is there, but I think he takes a big step forward with his bat.
I think we can all agree he's a terrific defensive catcher, and we're not worried about that side. But if he can get the bat and if he can start hitting it, if he can get to 300, cool.
I think he's going to hit. I believe in that. He was one of the guys I wanted to circle, but I thought he played a little bit too much. I really like him. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I've got a couple of guys that, as the ACC guy, I got to give you some more options, right? I'm not trying to hedge my bets here, but I am trying to give you guys some more options. We're going to stick with Pitt. Again, Mark and I are sticking with the same team, different guys. Sebastian Pisacreta, he only played 19 games for Pitt last year, 237 average, only had, 4 extra base hits, but he only had 38 at bats. So, 2 home runs, 19 games played, but he's probably been their best player of the fall, and he's going to get a lot of playing time either in the DH role or spelling Jaden Melendez at catcher. I really like him. You guys have already heard me talk about him. Ryan Jaros from Georgia Tech, now at NC State. He's going to be one of my picks here to be a breakout player. He only played in 26 games last year, but he hit 343 for Georgia Tech before he went down with that injury. He's looking to add more power, but he did have 5 extra base hits in those 26 games. And then lastly, I'm going with the guy I already mentioned at Duke, Sam Harris. Only had a handful of at-bats, didn't do much, but they've been raving about him all summer and last spring. So he's going to be my third breakout candidate.
Now we got a new one that we're doing for the ACC because we saw so many breakout guys, and I was like, let's do a new category. And Monty and I talked about it. Bounce back candidate. So this is somebody that has been injured and missed either part of or all of last season or a majority of the season. Jake, I'll let you go first on this one here. Who do you think is going to be your bounce back candidate for the ACC?
I think this one's so obvious, but I'll go ahead and take it. Garrett Michelle from Virginia Tech. He only played in 9 games last year.
We talked before the show.
I wasn't there for that, was I?
Yes, you were. You told us who you were going to pick.
You just stole Monty's guy.
He literally said he was taking Folger Boaz.
He said, I'm going to take Folger Boaz.
I'm sorry, I wrote down the wrong name.
We really do have pre-show meetings, folks, and Jake just sometimes spaces out during these meetings. So,
okay. Go ahead, continue.
I'll have to send it after, but I wrote down Monty's. But how I read it was I did Monty enter, so I just saw Garrett Michelle.
Oh,
we need to clip that. We need to clip that one. Well, do you want to talk about?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. You're into it now.
Here, let me regroup here for a second. Like I said, he only started 9 games for that Virginia Tech team last year. 2 years ago, he hit at just an insane level. He's a career 350 hitter for him. Has been a mainstay in that Virginia Tech lineup. This is a huge, huge year for them as this is his draft year. That really did hurt his stock last year being that injury. At this time last year, I think he was a projected first rounder. Now he's kind of in more of that 60 to 100 range. So it's a huge, huge year for him to kind of take a step forward. The bat's always there. I think he can get a little bit better as a fielder. It'll be interesting to see kind of how Virginia Tech uses him, but I'm really excited to kind of see what he does.
Monty, do you want me to go next then? Since
Yeah, go ahead.
We know that I'm not.
Monty's just speechless.
I'll throw out Folger Boaz since we already had talked about that as being a guy. I'm not going to steal your guy, Monty. You know who I'm going with. I told you who I'm going with.
Then don't throw anyone out. Just go with your guy.
Options. There's more
no,
options.
I had to come up with a new option.
Then I'll leave you my other guy, who I know you're going to want to talk about. So I'll go the two guys from UNC. Then I'll go Jake Knapp and Folger Boaz. And I think they both could have tremendous seasons.
We're just taking all Monty's people.
No, I left him the best one.
No, I was sitting here after I pivoted after Jake and was like, I'm going to hit all 3 UNC guys.
Well, you're right. That's my fault. I pivoted and had the wrong guy. So I'm gonna leave you the third guy. I'm gonna leave you your third.
No, now we're not going to talk about him. The specific guy who you asked us to talk about, so that we created this whole thing for him, and I'm not going to talk about him because you pivoted.
Do you want me to do it?
No, we're going to talk about Matt Willardson, NC State pitcher. He is back. He is healthy, and that's a big boost for NC State. I mean, they already had the depth even without him, but now they're bringing him back. He is going to have a big year. Mark believes he is going to have a big year. So, and well, yeah, this is why I don't think either of you are on second thought coming on the ACC show. I just need Micah back.
Yeah, why? So you can write Clemson 1?
That's right. I'll just do everything myself.
I'll do it live.
I'll do it live. All right.
No, I love Matt Willardson, and I think that the guys we mentioned here are gonna have big opportunities to make big changes for their team. One thing here, we're gonna do the dark horse. So any team that is ranked between 7 and 16 that has the chance to win the regular season ACC title. I want you to pick a team between 7 and 16 that has a chance to win the ACC title. And 7 and 16 in our rankings, not in your rankings, Monty.
I don't have any 7 to 16 in my rankings.
I know.
Everyone's number 1.
It could be literally anybody for you. Jake, who's your 7 to 16 team?
We had Wake at 9, right?
No, Georgia Tech's at 9.
So wait, is Wake
at 8? So 8.
Wake fits in that. I like Wake. The hitting I think is a little bit scary, and I think is what's going to ultimately hold them back from winning the ACC. But the amount of pitching and stuff that they have, I think that they have the talent to win the ACC. It's a very, very, very thin margin for error with this lineup, but I really like Wake Forest to kind of take another step forward.
Yeah, they're a team, and they have so many. Like Monty said, they have 14 guys that can throw, and you're going to put them all in the bullpen, and it's going to be crazy. Monty, 7 through 16.
I mean, because you guys are dumb and messed up the rankings, I get to pick UNC because somehow they're number 7. So I'm picking UNC as the dark horse to win the ACC.
Dark horse to win the ACC. I know. I'm just shocked, especially if they get Jake Knapp and Folger Boaz back, which
they're both throwing. Yes. They're both back.
I just have to throw it out there because we got to make sure we're taking care of these guys. But yeah, it looks like they're all back, and then Jason DeCaro. I mean, yeah, this team is loaded on the pitching side.
Luke Stevenson, who is going to get mentioned soon again.
With all the young studs that this team has, I'm going to take Georgia Tech. I think that they could be a team that just doesn't get down on themselves and goes out there and just takes care of business. I mean, the young pitching staff and Drew Rogers and Kyle Lodius and Drew Burst, I really like this team. I like Georgia Tech moving forward. I think that they could win the ACC even from this number 9 slot that we have them in. What were you shaking your head for, Monty?
No, he was giddy.
The Georgia Tech hype train. Let's go. I don't think Mark started the show believing in Georgia Tech, but after hearing me, I think that's when he pivoted to Georgia Tech.
The last week of off-season stuff that we've just been talking about has just built me up on Georgia Tech, and everything I look up, I'm like, man, how did I not love this team more going into this show? Yeah, and I think that Georgia Tech has the ability to be really, really good this year. Pitcher of the year. Jake, you get to start us off again.
Okay. This one, I know we didn't talk about it pre-show, but hopefully Monty doesn't have another blow up. Jamie Arnold from Florida State. He
That's
was
a
best
safe bet. I don't
last
think either
year,
one
and
of
he
us
got
are
even
going there.
better with Jamie Arnold.
I went dark
that's fair.
horses, so I went dark horses, hoping you guys would take the main guys. So
Do
Jamie
you want
Arnold's
me
a
to go
great
with
pick.
my? Do you want me to go with my two that I had listed, Monty? Since
Yeah,
neither one of them were yours either.
yeah.
I have Evan Blanco from Virginia. I think that he can make that next step and be the stud, especially if Virginia ends up winning the regular season ACC title. And Jake Knapp, if he comes back healthy, he was supposed to be UNC's Friday night guy last year, and if he's healthy and can lead this UNC Tar Heel team, I think either one of those guys could be pitcher of the year. I have Blanco listed first though.
So my guy, and this is not really even a dark horse much for me, is Patrick Forbes for Louisville. I think he's going to have a monster year. He looked fantastic for Team USA. He looked fantastic for the Brewster Whitecaps, and he's looked fantastic this fall. I think that's going to continue. And then my other guys, Logan Lunsford, I think is going to move into the first round conversation with the season he's going to have. He's got one of the best changeups in the country. And then Tate McKee at Georgia Tech. I talked about him a lot when we talked about Georgia Tech. I think he's going to be the anchor of that staff. I think he's going to make a huge jump as a sophomore and will be in the conversation. I think he's somebody who could make that Jamie Arnold jump after the experience he had as a freshman.
Freshman to sophomore year jump for him could be huge. I love that. Player of the year, Jake.
Cam Ketterella at Clemson. Like you said, he kind of battled a few injuries last year and still had just gaudy numbers for him. I'm just going to pull up the numbers here. 337, 11 home runs, 60 RBIs, Gold Glove level defense. I think he's going to be talked about in a Golden Spikes conversation. Definitely Cam Ketterella. I know it's kind of low hanging fruit. I did the AJ method where you pick the obvious ones.
Listen, this award a lot of times goes to the best player on great teams, right? So I'm going to go with two guys. Luke Stevenson, UNC, and Jacob Ferentz, both catchers, or Jacob Ferentz from Virginia, both catchers, both dudes that could hit 20 home runs this year, both guys that are going to lead their ball clubs. Very excited for both these guys. I have Luke Stevenson listed one because I think he could be the anchor for this UNC team and be a big reason why they could be heading back to Omaha.
They love catchers
They
as
love catchers.
the player of the year. Yep.
It's almost like I did research for this, Monty.
Yep. Who am I going with, Mark?
Drew Burris.
You have
I'm going first with Rentaro
Rentaro.
Sasaki. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Rentaro. I don't think people understand how good he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he broke all of Otani's high school records.
And he's been there since last April. So people don't realize he got to Stanford early last year, and they
he
didn't want to play.
He actually could have played, but that would have
100%.
been a waste of a year of eligibility. But then Drew Burris. I mean, Drew Burris with Kyle Lodi's hitting in front of him. I am so excited to see Drew make that next jump. And if I have, again, I've said it already, Georgia Tech is going to Omaha before Drew Burris leaves, and he's going to take him there. He's going to. I think he's going to do Vance Honeycutt things in the postseason whenever they get there. Whether it's this season or next season, I think he's going to do Vance Honeycutt clutch things for Georgia Tech. So he's my other player of the year.
Love it. Rentaro, he had 120 home runs in his high school career in Japan. Just crazy. Yeah. All right. Here's the big question. 4 teams went last year. How many teams make it all the way back to Omaha this year? Jake, I'm going to let you start.
8.
It's an all ACC affair.
I'm going to go 2.
Yep. Okay. I also went 2. And it's because it's nothing against the ACC, but I also dropped down SEC down to 3 this year, and I think that there's going to be more teams. I think the Big Ten team is going to get a team in. I think that the Big 12 might get a team to Omaha this year, and I think there might be a team outside of all the conferences get in.
They just had to play a lot of these teams have to play SEC teams in regionals, and then turn around and play them in super regionals.
I think it's also going to beat up the SEC also. So
I mean it's a coin toss anytime they play. So law of averages says 25%.
Monty, how many do you think can get there?
But I think 10 teams could. 10 of the 10 teams could. Sorry.
10 can't get to Omaha.
No, 10 teams could slot into those 2 spots.
Monty, you got 4. I like it. I mean, it very well. They could be all SEC and ACC. It could be 5 ACC teams. It wouldn't surprise me if multiple ACC teams over the 2 get over in there. I have them at 2 just because I think that the teams I think that college baseball is spread out quite a bit, especially with the 34 player roster restrictions, and the NIL deals has really made baseball kind of spread out all over the country. But I'm all over it.
I would love a 4 SEC, 4 ACC. I think that would be
Again,
That just happened.
I know.
Okay, you said it like it was a
the best
dream, like it
College
was
World
a
Series
fantasy.
ever last year. Last year was the best one we've had.
yeah, I really wish that we would have had one of the ACC teams though get to the final, but it was a terrific College World Series. I did love it. Jake, any last words here for the ACC fans?
I'm just really excited to see the depth on display of this conference. It really is kind of like an SEC football from 10 years ago. Anybody can beat anybody any given weekend. There's not a single team that you can sit here and look at and go, okay, we need to sweep this weekend. Taking 2 of 3, getting Sunday steals, I think is going to be the key to winning this conference. And I'm really, really excited to see kind of Pitt, Georgia Tech, these teams that aren't historically around the tournament be talked about in a bigger conversation nationally.
I'm very excited. I think that there's 16 teams here that are really, really good, and then there's some elite level. Yes, Monty, go ahead.
He just said Georgia Tech not historically near the tournament, and I'm concerned when Jake started watching college baseball. Was it the year before last?
I meant into the supers. When was the last time I went to a super regional?
Okay, that's fine. I was just real quick. No, I just want to talk about the shows I've got left. The ACC Coaches Corner, we got 4 shows left, Tuesday and Thursday between now and December 19th. We have lined up, I hope this is in order, but Virginia Tech hitting coach Kurt Elbin, Duke pitching coach Brady Kirkpatrick, Georgia Tech pitching coach Matt Taylor, and then California coach Mike New.
Yep, I'll be doing that one. So I got the new interview.
And then December 30th, we'll take a short break, and then December 30th, we come back with Boston College Deep Dive Preview. We'll be deep diving all 16 ACC teams between December 30th and the start of the season.
70 days left, folks. Thanks for joining us here again on College Baseball Central. Go out and go buy yourself some sunflower seeds. Go get those Chinook seeds. Go to ChinookSeedery.com. 10% off your order if you use code CBC. Thanks for joining us. For Monty Taylor and Jake McKeever and myself, we'll see you again in a week or so, 2 weeks here for our next preview.